Okay, so this is the second part. I'll be making arguments for both Moses and Enoch, and then I'll be trying to disprove some of the claims for Moses being the second witness. Here we go. Enoch or Moses. There has been much controversy as to who the other witness is. Some say Enoch, while others say Moses. One reason for Enoch is that he was translated to heaven, Genesis 5:24, just like Elijah, 2 Kings 2:11, in the very midst of his prophetic ministry. They were the only two witnesses that were translated into heaven without dying. When the verse in Genesis 5:24 says he was not, it does not mean that he died, but rather it means he was no longer on the earth. In Hebrews 11:5, it clearly states that by faith Enoch was translated that he should not see death. Also, before Elijah was translated into heaven, he said to Elisha, "Knowest thou that the Lord will take away thy master from thy head today?" 2 Kings 2:5. The word "take away" is the same Hebrew word as used for Enoch's translation into heaven, which is took. Genesis 5:24. Both were translated in the physical flesh directly to heaven and do not yet have a glorified body. Another reason is, like Elijah, Enoch was a prophet of judgment to come, ministering as it were to the Gentile nations in times of deep apostasy. Enoch as the seventh from Adam, Jude 14, living at about the same time as ungodly Lamech, Genesis 4:18-24, prophesied about the second coming of Christ and the execution of judgment, Jude 15, halfway between Adam and Abraham, when God was dealing directly with mankind in general. Elijah prophesied halfway between Abraham and Christ, when God was dealing with Israel in particular. Enoch right now is in the presence of God and will serve as one of the two witnesses, prophesying again of God's judgment, this time to the whole world, both Jew and Gentile. Both Enoch and Elijah will return to the earth and finish their ministry to both Jews and Gentiles. One reason for Moses is that he was a witness to Jesus Christ, just like the prophets. By that I mean he prophesied of the coming Messiah, Jesus Christ, just like the prophets who prophesied of his coming. Now there are two sources of witness to the Messiah's first and second coming. One is Moses, and the other source are the prophets. Luke chapter 16:29 and 31, chapter 24:25-27, John chapter 1:45, chapter 5:46-47, Acts chapter 26:22-23, chapter 28:23. Since Elijah is considered to be the greatest of all the prophets since the Israelites entered the promised land, and Moses was the greatest prophet in Israel because there arose not a prophet since in Israel like unto Moses, whom the Lord knew face to face, Deuteronomy 34:10, they are the two witnesses of Revelation. Another reason is that the verse before the one that says God will send Elijah before the coming of the great and dreadful day of the Lord, Malachi 4:5, it mentions Moses by saying, "Remember ye the law of Moses my servant," Malachi 4:4. So the representatives of the law of God and the prophets, Moses and Elijah, will be the two witnesses. Another reason is the miracles that the two witnesses will perform are similar to the ones done by Elijah and Moses. Just as Elijah, through fervent prayer, stopped the rain for 3.5 years, 1 Kings 17:1, Luke 4:25, James 5:17, so the two witnesses will have the power to stop the rain for 3.5 years. Just as Moses, with the help of Aaron as his prophet, Exodus 7:1, turned the river to blood, Exodus 7:19-21, so the two witnesses will have the power to turn the waters into blood. The two witnesses will also be able to inflict the earth with all kinds of biblical plagues and will be associated with the seal and trumpet judgments, like hail and fire mingled with blood, and a third part of the plant life destroyed, Revelation 8:7. The sea becoming blood, and a third part of the sea creatures dying, Revelation 8:9-10. Waters becoming bitter, Revelation 8:11. A third part of the sun and moon and stars becoming dark, Revelation 8:12, and locusts like demons attacking men, Revelation 9:3-11. All of these plagues are somewhat similar to what Moses did in Egypt, Exodus chapter 7, 19-21, chapter 9, 22-25, chapter 10, 13-15, and 22-23. Moses and Elijah will do a repeat of what they did in the past during the first 33.5 years of the tribulation. Another reason is Moses and Elijah were seen talking with Jesus in the transfiguration event. Matthew 17, 1-9, Mark 9, 2-10, Luke 9, 28-36. So who is it? From all the scriptural evidences for both Enoch and Moses, it seems that Moses is the more likely candidate to be the second witness of Revelation. Yet, after looking more closely at the evidences and other scriptures, there is more evidence to disprove Moses than Enoch as being the second witness. First, I will prove that Moses can't be the second witness by disproving the claims of Moses being the second witness, and then I'll prove that Enoch is the second witness by disproving the charges laid against Enoch of not being the second witness. The first and strongest evidence to prove Moses as not being the second witness is he died, Exodus 34, 5-7. Every person has one life to live and then die, Hebrews 9:27. So both Elijah and Enoch will be able to fulfill this principle, since both of them are still alive and have not yet died. Those who believe Moses is the second witness say this principle is not absolute, because there are many examples in Scripture, both Old and New Testament, that show people being raised from the dead to later die a second time. The most famous being Lazarus, John 11:43-44. In a way, they're right. The principle of dying once is an absolute rule of the universe, but not to God. He is the one that he is the creator of this universe, and he can do with it as he pleases. Reading through Scripture, we see God intervening in, but not breaking, the laws of nature and the universe. Two examples are the parting of the Red Sea, Exodus 14:21, specifically the Gulf of Aqaba, but that's another matter, and the stopping of the sun and moon, Joshua 10:12-14. It was actually the stopping of the earth's rotation which made the sun to stand still, and the moon's revolution. Yet when God resurrects a dead person, he does it within the 4 days after his or her death. After the 4 days, the person's body begins to decay. God resurrects a person's body when it is whole, not when it is decaying. Of course, God can, if he wanted to, raise a person back to life no matter how long the person has been dead or how decayed a person's body is, since God can do anything and everything. But Scripture does not show him doing such a thing. Moses, on the other hand, has been dead for thousands of years, and his body is already turned to dust. Yet proponents of Moses say his body is being preserved by God, so that in the future he can appear as one of the two witnesses, and base it on Moses' unfading health, Satan's attempt to take Moses' body, and his secret burial by God. Deuteronomy 34, 6-7, Jude 9. Yet, there is no scriptural evidence that talk about God preserving Moses' body, explicitly nor implicitly. Proponents of Moses say the two witnesses must be Jews, because the two witnesses are two olive trees, Revelation 11:4. And since an olive tree represents Israel, Jeremiah 11:16, the two witnesses must be Jews. Therefore, Moses is the second witness because he is Jewish, and Enoch is a Gentile. That is not completely true. The olive tree does represent Israel, or the Jewish people, but it also represents the whole family of God. Paul talked about an olive tree that had some of the branches broken off and replaced by wild branches from a wild olive tree. Romans 10:11-24. The branches that are broken off are unfaithful Jews, and the wild branches being grafted onto the olive tree are saved Gentiles. So Gentiles are part of Israel, part of the family of God. And since Enoch is a Gentile who walked with God, Genesis 5:24, he has just as much right to be an olive tree as Moses. Enoch represents the Gentile part of the olive tree, and Elijah represents the Jewish root, the Jewish foundation of the olive tree. Interestingly, the wild olive trees are found in Galilee, so it can be said that the wild olive trees are geographically part of the land of Israel. But that aside, since the olive tree of Romans 10 is made up of both Gentile branches, meaning the Gentile church, and Jewish roots, meaning the Jewish people, then that means that one witness must be Jewish and the other witness must be Gentile in order to represent the entire family of Israel, because one represents the nation of Israel and the other represents the church age, which is predominantly Gentile. Yet proponents of Moses go on to say that there is a Jewish tradition saying that the two witnesses will be Elijah and Moses because of what Moses told the Israelites, saying that there would be a prophet from the midst of thy brethren like unto me, Deuteronomy 18:15. This Jewish tradition is a misunderstanding of the verse because it is a messianic prophecy, not a prophecy about the two witnesses. Jesus Christ fulfilled this prophecy. It does not say that Moses will return, but that a prophet like unto Moses will come. Jesus Christ is a greater prophet than Moses, the greatest prophet of all prophets that were, are, and will be. Jesus is the prophet of prophets. Proponents of Moses point to Malachi 4:4, in which it mentions the name of Moses before the verse that talks of Elijah coming before the great and dreadful day of the Lord, Malachi 4:5, as proof that Moses must be the second witness. Because it cannot be coincidence that Moses and Elijah are mentioned in close proximity of a prophecy of one of the two witnesses. They're right. It is no coincidence, but they misunderstand because Moses and Elijah are mentioned as a pattern, not as proof for Moses as being one of the two witnesses of Revelation. God always uses patterns in order to get a message through to us. Moses as being the bringer of the law of God, and Elijah as being the representatives of the prophets, are witnesses to the prophecies of the first and second messianic coming. This is a pattern frequently seen in the New Testament. Luke chapter 16, 29 and 31, chapter 24, 25 through 27, John chapter 1, 45, chapter 5, 46 through 47, Acts chapter 26, 22 through 23, chapter 28, 23. Okay, this is the end of the second part. Check the third part for the end.